Alright, for today's class, right now we're looking at EDPM and we're doing past papers for 2015. So, hello everyone, I'm the study paper guy. And for today's class, we'll be looking into basically we're looking into the theory aspect, we're looking at the paper ones, and this will be a relatively long class. So, please stay in touch, stay in tune, make sure that you have your pen, your book, your paper, have on your notifications because for this year, presumptuously this month, I'll be making a lot of new contents for you guys to revise for any upcoming tests or what's not that you have upcoming. So we start. Not I don't like to waste time. So we start immediately. So it says here Caribbean examination. And basically, there's basically everything here, and this for the month of May June 2015. So it says read the following instruction carefully. Now let me say something, right? So you need to answer within paper one for EDPM. You need to answer all questions, and you get 10 questions in total. Some relatively easy, some relatively hard. This paper consists of 10 questions. Attempt all questions. Write your responses in the spaces provided in the booklet. However, there is an exception if your handwriting is too big or cannot fit within the acquired writing segment. You could easily improvise and ask the papers to write on. So, without further ado, let us now go into the segment or the first section. It says answer all questions. So it says here, Stefan and Susan Sumaru have recently opened a plant nursery. They wish to use information technology to complete some of their business tasks. Suggest the most appropriate type of software that should be used to perform each of the following tasks. So we have designs, flyers, and brochures. When we think of that, what do we usually think of? What usually comes into mind? Well, um, we hear about design flyers and brochures. It usually comes into line with Microsoft Publisher. So this is very simple. It's straightforward. Please forgive my handwriting. The answer would be Microsoft. Let me see. This might take a little while, right? Anyways, I correct them all later. So for this answer, we have to have Microsoft. So for this answer, we have Microsoft Publisher. So now within this scenario, Microsoft Publisher would be the best, or Microsoft Publisher is the answer for this one here. So you could just get a probably a better pen, so I could just illustrate to y'all. Um, so this one here, the answer for this is Microsoft Publisher. Just take into consideration this is just a review kind of class for everybody you are going to get CSEC or what's not. It's basically a review class for y'all and anybody in general who want to learn about EDPM, Microsoft Publisher. Just put P because we might waste a lot of time. As a matter of fact, let me just write out the whole answer for Microsoft Publisher. Let's put P, right? This is a P. We'll take this for F. So the answer for this one would be Microsoft Publisher. And just like that, the answers for this is covered. So we have prepare letters and memos. When you think about prepare letters and memos, it's basically the basic of the basic. We don't have common sense like this. You need to prepare for CSEC. It would be Microsoft Word. Just put MW because the I don't have a course right now to write with. So Microsoft Word. So MW. I put down MW for now, right? So please take this into consideration. M represents Microsoft and W represents Word, Microsoft Word. Create receipts and invoices. What do we use to create receipts and invoices? Um, So I just put database management systems. So to create receipts and invoices, you usually use Access. So DBMS for short database management systems. So we put DBMS. So the answer would be DBMS, database management system basically. I like to go into depth about it because I don't have a lot of space to write. So the answer for this is database management systems. Look, review answers. So for number eight, design flyers and brochures, Microsoft Publisher, or what we could use on presentation software. We have prepare letters and memos. Everybody know this. Microsoft Words and C, create receipts and invoices, database management systems. Explain two main purposes of electronic database system. So I'll not go into that explicitly because I can't write it out. But what I will do is that I will read this scenario here. So it says here, explain two purposes of an electronic database management system, right? So the major purposes of a database management system are two. Number one, store data in organized format to allow data to be easily manipulated, summarized, or sorted. Two, allow the user to produce reports quickly and easily. Number three, allow the user to search large amounts of data, selected data that match specific criteria. So, number one, store data in an organized manner. Let me see, guys, put it in blank format. So put number one, basically store. I put it in. Now I'm trying to make it not long. So one the main purposes is to store data. So it's number one for store data effectively and efficiently, and the other purposes is for so we have for store data. Please forgive me for my writing, guys. You need to get a new cursor. Store data. So that's for the first one, and one the most important one or the most organized or the most simple one. I could think it in one word is for organization. And when we mean organization, right, we mean that we could attain information quickly within Access. If you guys are familiar with Access, you would know it have something called queries. And you create queries for specific informations on based on specific criterias. So that is basically what it means. Um, so what does we mean when we talk about organization? Anyways, please forgive me. I might just have to put an O here because I don't have enough space. So this O represents organization, right? Please forgive me for that. This O just represents organization. So that's that. So we have answered question one and two. We have, let me see, that's 10 questions within this one. So you have to bear witness with me. The next class I will provide answers. I will provide the answers. But for this class, I want to build that ground point that when you're approaching this test, you can answer the questions. But within the other segment, we will review those questions and we'll just go in depth a bit more. So, question three. In recent years, computers have been used to complete tasks which were previously performed manually. Explain two advantages and two disadvantages of this increased computer use. So, let me answer that question in the most simplest terms. So, advantage, right? Advantage number one. So the term would use would be storage, and the advantage is computers can store large volumes of information, taking up less space than filing cabinet, right? So instead of putting all your work within this congested area, like for example in office we get like 1,000 book, all of those 1,000 books could just fit on a tiny computer where all those work can just fit there and it will be less space. It will just make life a bit more easier. Storage capacity will be the highest standard. The disadvantage following along within this line is that damage to the hard drive can make all the data on the drive inaccessible. What I'm trying to say here is that if data is lost, or if, for example, the hard drive you have was storing all your data, somehow, somewhere, broke up or get destroyed or get dismantled, what will happen now in this situation is that you can't get access to that information anymore. That data is lost. And a disadvantage number two is that if there is no electricity, the user cannot access information on the storage device. What the challenge here is basically that, for example, if you want, if 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 you don't have electricity, if you don't have current, you will on your, for example, your computer there, you can't access that information anymore because you need electricity for a computer and generally any electronic to even work. For example, a phone, a TV, all these things need electricity to work. And a major advantage also would be accuracy and less errors. If you all know, it have something called auto correctors or auto correctors or whatnot. It corrects errors automatically for you. And when those things correct errors automatically, it makes life too easy for you. As a matter of fact, you might become lazy, you might become unwilling to do work, you might basically jump the gun. So let me just go into that. Let me go into the advantage first and then go into the disadvantage. Them seems more chronologically correct. So it says here, it's computer processing eliminates the human errors since many software packages have a built-in spell check and grammar check. So this and again is an advantage. But another disadvantage now. If the data is entered incorrectly, the output would not be accurate. For example, you might get if you make one single thing wrong, it'll show a red line and you get to make the correction to the all and stuff like that. So that's what it's in here. Another disadvantage is that programs that include spell check and grammar tools may cause persons to become lazy are complacent and not check their work. So there is room for errors when this occurs. Even though fixing errors, it might make you too lazy to even fix any errors. For example, if you write an essay and you say stupid and you want to use some other word, that might correct it for you, but it becomes lazy to such an extent that you might take everything for everything for granted, and you might have an error within your essay, you might have an error within some area, but you might say, man, it's autocorrect, but you making a personal error, and sometimes you might not be, you might just feel lazy not to fix it because you said the computer already fixed it. So pay keen attention to that whenever you're writing an essay, whenever you're writing a piece of prose, whatever you're doing, whatever writing you're doing on a computer, make sure you take this ideology into consideration. Um, So that is the advantages and disadvantages. I don't want to overshare information, but just for a prep up, I will give you an extra advantage and disadvantage, right? So speed or accuracy or speed, extreme speed. Computer work extremely speed. So speed dash less time dash quickly. What does this mean? It means that computers speed up that information processing. So it says here, processing large amounts of data is faster than processing using strictly human method. For example, if you're doing a balance sheet within on a computer, it might take relatively short. Not only will it be relatively short, it will be relatively accurate than just doing it by yourself. Due to the speed of processing, the pace of business has increased, which may cause increased stress levels. So this is basically all the advantages and disadvantages that I could give for the moment. If you guys have any questions, if you guys have any things that you want to add or you think I should have added, please make that corrections down in the comments below. So we go on into our next target or our next segment for the fourth questions. So it says here, the table below shows a list of tasks to be completed using the list below. Complete the table to show the most appropriate stationery for each task. So it says here, um, so it gives you forums, letterheads, index cards, memos, labels, and templates. So it says your task: prepare a one-page letter advising new client of the company's products. What is the stationery do we need? And that's simple. It is letterhead. So I just join it right here, letterheads. Right, put it right there. So notifying staff of the upcoming meeting. And y'all know that within a business and maybe notifying staff of upcoming meeting, this is internal customers. This is not in good. So sorry for that. Very much sorry for that. This is your own workers. If you're sending information from probably an employer or a manager to staff members or what's not, that is an internal fear. So that would be a memo. So memo to be memo right to be here, and then we would have the third one. It said um, addressing envelopes for the mass mailing of corresponding customers. It says addressing envelopes for the mass mailing of corresponding to customers, and this one would be labels. So this one here would be labels. Yeah, I don't write this thing like this, right? I just doing this because I want to give y'all the just idea. Between the next class, I'll put everything in more details. designing a standard layout for the company's new website. And this, what we would use would be templates. Templates would basically illustrate what the business is about, gives basically customers an idea of what's going on in the website or what's not. So this one would be templates. So five. Michael, a student at Carson Community College, was speaking with his professor about plagiarism and its effects. Explain what is meant by the term plagiarism. The term plagiarism means the use of someone else's work without giving appropriate credit. So that is generally what plagiarism is. Suggest two ways in which plagiarism may be solved. This one is very straightforward. Sorry for that, I just do then. So let's start off with number one. Write back whatever example. If you're plagiarizing a text, or if you're using, for example, um, if you're doing an assignment, or you're doing some kind of work for grades, right? And you consult the internet, right? Don't write exactly what is on the internet. What you can do is write it back in your own words while still retaining the same meaning. And another one you could do, or another thing you could do basically, is let me see, just I want to give you all this wrong information. So just make sure that everything in line. Just give me 1 minute. So what you could do is reference a quote or quotes, or even create a bibliography. So what does this mean? It mean that what you could do is quote the author. If you're making a direct statement, quote it, give appropriate credit. So that would not be plagiarism. So that is one, and that is two. Easy, 4 marks. No, 2 marks. Sorry for that. The picture below shows an office layout. Study the picture, then answer the questions that follow. It says A. Identify 5 health and safety issues associated with the use of computer in this office by circling them in the picture. So as I just started listing some health and safety issues associated with the use of computer in this office, if let me just go up by this picture and let me just take a minute to analyze it, right? So we could see a couple of things. And this is very horrible. This is a horrific scene. Number one, the computer is not on a disk. This desktop computer is not on a disk. This wire is on the screen, right? This wire here is on the screen, very much screening. These wires can make people fall. But let me just go into more appropriate listing. Number one, inappropriate furniture. Stool desk. Number two, open dryers of filing cabinet. Number three, position of work done by the door. Number four, location of extended cord. Number five, location of printer by the window. So this printer here should not be by the window. You might ask why. For example, we speaking indicatively to the Caribbean and even to South American countries in general. For example, if you open up that window, water could presumptuously even come in and wet that thing up, or wet up the printer in general, and that would be spoiled. That would be a waste of money right there. So continuing down the line, seven. I'll give you one more point. Location of monitor on the filing cabinet. So if you look at here, the monitor is on the filing cabinet, and that is horrific. Honestly, you can't do that. They're wrong. This is covered off. That is wrong. You can't do that. This just bad. And now we go on to the B1. Suggest three ways in which the work environment could be made more suitable in the office. So we have to suggest three ways. I'll give you my ways, and at the end of every way, I will give you a certain explanation. So, any three of the following. So, change furniture to appropriate desk and chair. What we mean? We have to arrange the furniture and chair in a chronological aspect so that we can have a suitable working environment. And solution number two, closing filing cabinet drawers. Just as even if I need to go put this image in. If I could see here, this thing here, right here, is open, right? This thing right here is open. and that is both dangerous. That is very dangerous. That is bad, right? Could make people follow. Number three, relocate the workstation. If you could see, this whole thing is a catastrophe. The doors open. This clustered. The seats are wrong. Everything within this image here is horrible. So we can't use it. So we need to relocate. So number one, we need to relocate our work. Basically, relocate the workstation. Number one, close the cabinet or close the filing drawers. And number one, change furniture to appropriate desk and chair, or basically just arrange it in a chronological aspect so that you can work. Even it's workable. So let me speed run this one quick. I don't have a lot of time. Read number 7. It says read the passage below, then answer the question which follow. The principal shared important advice dash advice about the increment or inclement weather. It's important that each of you buy or dash buys a raincoat, umbrella, or hat. He stated that he also noted that no parents would be allowed to go to poor. So I just underline it. So it says from the words given in brackets, circle the word in which correctly completes each sentence. The principal shared important advice. So advice and advice have two separate meanings, but we neglect advice because advice immediately is out the door. That's immediately wrong. So what we'll use is advice. So advice, I'll show you what advice and advice mean, right? Advice is past tense, right? So, did you give him advice about his life, or like this with me, right? Did you give him advice about his life? As in contrast to advice, did you advise him on how to properly conduct his life? So that is what it basically means. So increment and increment. Just give me a minute. Increment, about increment or inclement weather. So this word here, the right answer is increment. I will explain probably increment or an increment in another class separately. Um, so the answer for this one is increment. It's important. It's important that each of you buys a raincoat. So it's when you use the term it's, right? It's represents ownership. If you're saying it's without the s, it represents that probably. If you're saying it's that without the s, that means it has more than one way of a thing going on. But if you say it's, it represents ownership. It's important that each of you, right? That's the same as everybody within this group has to get a personal raincoat. So the answer for this would be it's, right? So the answer would be it's. It's important that each of you buy or buys. The answer would be buys because buys represents that you buy in multiple, right? So that is basically it, right? Can't say buy, it's buys. A raincoat, umbrella, or hat. He stated he also noted that no parents would be allowed, this word wrong because allowed means you're speaking high, you're speaking loudly, but allowed means permitted. You're permitted. No parents would be permitted to go to the tour. Right? That sounds more centrally. Make corrections to the passage by inserting the appropriate. So what you need to do within this scenario, you just write back it, but put in these words like advice, the principal shared important advice, about the inclement weather and stuff like that. So that's all you need to do for that. So we're going on to our final three questions. Communication is an important part of the day-to-day operations in a business. State three factors to be considered in selecting the best method of communication. So I'll just read this because I don't want to jump see too long on this. So, the three factors to be considered in selecting the best method of communication is number one, degree of urgency. How fast does this need to take place? Degree of urgency means does it need to be there immediately? Does this whatever thing need to be there immediately right now? Does this message need to be passed immediately? And number two, genre of communication. Does it need to be formal or does it need to be informal? Does it need to be basically does it need to be between me and my employers? What is it about? What genre? And the third one is the level of confidentiality or security. Is this information that I'm dispatching secure? Does it need to be extremely confidential? And those three things. So number one, degree of urgency, and number two, confidentiality, and level of confidentiality dash privacy, and genre of communication. So that is the general tree right there. Go on to our ninth one. Outline two desirable work habits that should be exhibited by all employees, highlight the benefits of each habit to organizations. So, habit number one would be team player, right? The benefit of this is that it makes work more efficient and more effective for generally the organization. So, habit number two would be punctuality. Punctuality helps the organization achieve its goals and presents a good image of the organization because you're being punctual. Punctual could also be associated with the cleanliness and even organization. So, habit would be punctuality. Benefit of punctuality would be it presents a very prevalent image of the organization. You're coming so early, and that would present such a good image of the organization to the general public. So, in the space provided, right, that what is meant by each manuscript sign shown below. So this one here, I try to write out the whole word. So this one here would be align. I just put A for align. Y'all see everything next class. Align, and this means delete. I put a big D sorry for that. So that for this one, it's align, and for this one, it means delete. And that is the end of the test. Very simple, nothing hard. With the next class, I'll show you the answers plain and square so that every one of us, y'all could look through your answers and make sure that everything is legit.